Okay, I think we're getting close here. Yeah, it's 5 o'clock, 1700. For those of us that use the 24-hour clock. This is week 3 of LDR 340, and I think it's 5 November, right? Okay, thought we'd have somebody joining us here in the classroom today. Evidently he wasn't able to make it, so sorry about that, and hope maybe he can arrive, but if not, always an option to watch the video. Okay, so what we're going to do here is let me go ahead and cover a few things and run you through some aspects and share with you a couple of frustrations I'm having. And then if anybody wants to call in or write in or email or whatever to address my concerns or to extend your own so that I can address them, feel free to do that. First thing is I've given you a lot of information, I realize. I always operate under the principle that as much as I can give you or should give you, I will. That presumes that you've got the time to go through it all, and at some point, if you can't do it on the spot, then later come back to it. Always come back and check. And first in on my screen is the announcements piece. Okay, and if you click on announcements, you'll see where I'm putting out information. Okay, and I started before the course even began with a welcome announcement, syllabus information, the grading rubric that I use on the weekly case analysis, and then we start going through the assignment instructions and the like. Okay, so what we've got here is a few things, and the last thing I put out was a leadership case study paper. So make sure you always take an opportunity, and I highlight it for you down there in each week. Ensure that you read the assignment instructions, okay? Always a good place to go. And then on each of these, as you go through them, I'll expand them out that particular week. If it becomes too much, then you need to let me know. But, you know, student articles, make sure you upload it into the discussion so that we can discuss it and your fellow students can provide you the benefit of their insights. Post it as well to the student article assignment form so that I can grade them. Okay, these that show up here, I can grade. What shows up here, we can only discuss. Okay, and that's just kind of a Moodle setup thing, but you know, that's just kind of the way it is. Okay, and then the instructor weekly case for analysis. We're still hitting or missing on making sure that you upload in both places for your student article, and then making sure you're uploading for the instructor. Each has its own timeline. Okay, we've been going through this a couple times, so you should know now that the student article you need to upload by 1800 or 6 p.m. on Wednesday. If you've worked out a different time with me, then continue with that time. There's a couple of you. And then, but hit your timelines, okay? Don't come in late. When you upload, you can upload it as a draft, and then that gives you time to go back and, or opportunity to go back and work it. Okay, when you hit the button submit for grading, that turns it into a final, and you can't adjust it anymore. Okay, but I do that for 2 reasons. One is I want you to know when you hit submit, you're submitting. Okay, now, what happens if you forget to submit your draft? Not a problem once the suspense time and date passes. So after 1801 on Wednesday or whenever I sit down and start to grade, I will grade your draft in the same as if you submitted it as a final. Okay, so there's no harm or foul here. The reason why I have you take that extra step is to give you the opportunity, because otherwise, most classes that I have taken require you to no-kidding submit because you're tacitly agreeing that what you provided is free of errors, and that means you haven't plagiarized, and it becomes almost an academic integrity issue. I guess there's some courses out there where you don't have to hit anything. I can't control any of those. That's not something that that I can help you out with. So for some of you that come in and say, well, I've never had to do it this way before, okay, you know, I'm hearing you, but in the main, you need to do it this way in this course, okay? And that's not being flippant and not disregarding you, it's just an acknowledgement that instructors run their courses differently. And so, you know, if there's an issue, let's talk about the issue. Let's not distill into you're not doing what others did, okay? All right, and then as we get into these, we're still having a couple of you having some issues with how you're presenting your case. The protagonist. The protagonist is a person, not a company, not an organization. It is the person that predominantly highlighted in your article. It is the person you are writing about. We're personalizing this. We're putting you in the shoes of your protagonist, or we're putting you in the shoes of an outside consultant who is advising the protagonist. What would you tell the protagonist based on your knowledge from what you learned in LDR 300, based on your analysis of the case, and based on your own experience? And that's all we're doing, okay? Now, as you have now gone through your text, okay, and I'm holding up your text, okay, you've now learned or read to the point this week of how to analyze a problem, a decision, or an evaluation. All right, so what we've got here is an opportunity so that you now understand why I'm having you identify up front. Who is your protagonist, and are you approaching this as a problem, a decision, or an evaluation? When you get in the framework here, and I'm looking because I thought somebody blocked it. When you get in the framework of how you approach your article, yes, there might be an opportunity to see in that article. It could be all three, but don't say all three, okay? That's just going to muddy it up for you and make it more confusing. The whole idea is to approach this in a process, okay? And a process is important because if you get a good outcome from a process, then that's repeated. Okay? Then what happens is, as you go through this, is how you're going to analyze that article. All right? Okay. Now, your articles from week 2 I've uploaded and I've graded. You've uploaded and I've graded. I'm going to show this on my screen. You all submissions, so you can see where people are laid out, okay? All right, if you scroll over, depending on how your Moodle is set up, you will see a feedback file in PDF format. Okay, just simply click on it, and that'll tell you or show you my comments, okay? All right, the reason that's important is because I'm giving you some feedback beyond your grade, okay? So, you know, grade is technically feedback. Most of you are doing very well, and my hat's off to you, and I really am enjoying what you're writing. In fact, I'm enjoying what all of you are writing. It's interesting to see your viewpoints and how you approach things, okay? So keep it going. But there's a few things we're going to kind of tighten up, and that just makes it a little bit better as we go a little bit further on down the course. So what we're going to do here is, you know, now you've gotten a feel for it, where we're stepping into an article and we're going to make sure we look at some leadership challenges. What do I mean by leadership challenges? Okay, this is not a class on finance. This is not a class on rocket scientry or chemical company workings or economics or marketing or any of these things. This is a leadership class, okay? And I'm highlighting here on the screen a photo, and it's from Moodle, okay? This is still your LDR 340 page. And if you scroll down there, you'll see where I'm posting the Zoom sessions. These are also showing up on YouTube, by the way. And I've got here LDR 300 leadership class slides archive. Click on that. You're going to find the photo here. And this is just simply out of your draft text. Okay. And that was your text for LDR 300, right? Prerequisite for this course. And what this course is designed to reinforce. It's designed to reinforce the leadership concepts you learned in LDR 300. Well, what were those? Okay, well, you know, sometimes it's tough to remember. I get that. I hope you didn't get rid of your textbook because it's a really good text, and as a leader, I would recommend you hold on to it. That said, I know not everybody does, so I have given you essentially the textbook in slide format. And this photo is just the table of contents. Okay, remember in LDR 300, and what does it mean to be a leader? Traits, behaviors, and relationships. Chapter 3, the contingency approach to leadership. Okay, this past instructor article talked about a certain style, right? A very directive style, a laissez-faire, or a more hands-off approach. Okay, remember in chapter 3 of LDR 300, you saw that the leadership curricula in body of thought has moved from the great man theory, okay, have a single style, have a single trait based on what you've seen worked in the past, to Fiedler's model, which is more situational. And I offered that to you in my comments, my feedback to you on the instructor article for week 2. But that's the contingency approach. Depends on the situation. Remember, leadership is a process of influence. And so what we have to do is determine the situation, okay, the environment that we're in, the people we're dealing with, what we're trying to get accomplished, and then choose and pick the appropriate style and tool and model and device that we're going to use in order to achieve the outcome that we're looking for, okay? So there are times when a handoff approach is very appropriate. There are other times when it is not. And the example I gave you in the feedback was, imagine a drill instructor at a Marine Corps boot camp or a drill sergeant at a Army, basic training outfit, using a hands-off approach with his or her recruits, letting them decide what time to get up and whether they're going to go to training that day or not. Okay, it's not going to work. Or say, I'm sitting here in a classroom at Jacksonville campus. I'm sitting here in a classroom. If this saying building caught on fire and a first responder came in, do you think he's going to ask me what my thoughts and opinion is on getting out of the building, or would he or she yell saying, get out now? Okay, probably going to yell the latter, okay, which is directive. It's a direct leadership style, authoritarian, okay? So time and place. I know these aren't great analogies or examples, but those are the best I can give you for right now. To continue on, okay, part 3 of LDR 300 text was the personal side of leadership, okay? The leader as an individual, moral leadership, courage, leadership mind and emotion, the emotional intelligence. Some of you used that in your instructor article analysis for week 2, and that was superb, great, okay? Chapter 7 was all about followership. LDR 300 told you the same traits of being a good leader are necessary in being a follower, okay? Part 4, chapters 8 through 12, got after the leader as a relationship builder. Chapter 8 was on motivation empowerment. Remember, Herzberg's two-factor theory, path goal theory, not expectation, I just lost the model. Expectancy value. Okay, these are all aspects of motivation, needs-based motivation, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, carrot and the stick approach, okay? Chapter 9 was communication, 10, leading teams, 11, diversity. Chapter 12 was on power and influence, okay? Talk about those aspects of charisma or vested power, okay? An officer in the Marine Corps or other service has symbols of power based on their office, okay? And then, but others don't have that. A pastor in a church leads by a certain amount of power. It could be charisma. In a lot of cases, it's probably referent or expert. Okay, so there are various types of power. And then the final part of your DAF text got into the leader as a social architect, and that is the aspects of the realm of the leader, which is vision, strategic direction, shaping culture and values, and leading change. Okay, so the DAF text was very well thought out and lays it out in a very pragmatic manner. So when I ask you what the leadership challenges are in a certain article, go to what is the table of contents. The leadership challenge in this article is leader communication. The leadership challenge in this article is the leader's courage and moral leadership. The leadership challenge in this article is creating vision and strategic direction. See, that's the challenge, the leadership challenge I'm after. We're not into whether we're selling enough shoes or whether we should or shouldn't be in the rocket building business. That's not the challenge that I'm looking for. Okay, this is a leadership class. So pull out what you learned in LDR 300 and then apply that into the article that you're reading. Now, if you don't have the text and don't have your notes and remember what you did, underneath, and as you look at my screen, you'll see I'm highlighting where I have my slides from my last seated class. Okay, and so you can go in there and get enough, at least from the slides, to help you out. All right, and you can download these. I'm going to ask that you be careful in using them because they're not current in the sense of how I'm presently teaching the course, LDR 300 that is, but it should give you enough to base at least part of your response. Okay, so you get in there and you tell me that communication is the leadership challenge. Great. Then you tell me that the leader needs to communicate better. And then you leave it. Okay, well, yes, I'd agree. The leader must communicate better. How? Okay, let's dig into it. Get below the wave tops. Okay, you have taken the course. You know that there are certain ways of communicating. Okay, one of the best aspects of this, or I can demonstrate, in your LDR 300 text, as I'm pulling it up, is in a time of crisis. Okay, the leader must communicate better in a crisis. Yes. Okay, well, how? And so LDR 300 on pages 282 and 283, okay, 282 to 283, specifically give you 4 skill sets that the leader should work on so he or she is crisis ready. And so this is kind of what I'm getting at. Now I know everybody's busy, and a lot of you have told me you're busy. Well, okay, it's this course requires some work, and it isn't just going to be given to you. All right, this one requires you to think it through. Okay, just like in leadership, if all leadership was with just a couple simple rules, all we would do is print it on a laminated sheet and hand it to you. There'd be no reason for the coursework that you're going through. All right, leadership is about building that tool set. Okay, if you've got a flathead screwdriver and a wood saw and a hammer, you at least have some tools for leadership. Okay, if I told you to cut down a tree with those tools, you probably get it, but it might be a little ugly. It may take some time. Okay, what if you were able to go through a course and get information and start building a toolkit that included a chainsaw, okay, and a wood chipper, okay, more specialized tools that allow you to get to a more efficient outcome, okay, and that's the way I kind of want you to look at this course. LDR 300 gave you a lot more than just a hammer, a flathead screwdriver, and a wood saw, okay? So you've got a lot of information out there, and it's just a matter of applying it. And so that's where the difference between child learning and or pedagogy and adult learning, okay, andragogy. So in child learning, you know, as kids coming up through kindergarten and elementary school, a lot of education is lecture-based, and it is memory. Hold on just a second. Yeah.
How you doing, sir?
Good.
Hey,
Hey, Jason. I'm Russ.
Finally.
Yeah. Come on in. I'm in an old Zoom session. Okay. So let me finish up a point, and then we'll cover a couple things. Okay. All right. So the difference here is between child learning and adult learning. In child learning, in kindergarten and elementary school, you went through a process of lecture-based delivery of information, and then it became memorization. You remember memorizing your math tables. The idea was to provide you a base or foundation of knowledge, and then you go on and apply these bases of knowledge in the workforce as you're gathering out experience. Well, in this case, you're now in adult learning. You've got this wide body of experience. So what we're doing is we're coming back, giving you the benefits of these aspects of knowledge, but it's not coming to you in a lecture-based format. It's more about you reading the concepts and seeing them, and then being able to apply. You've now got it on on your head. Okay, it's using your experience and then these principles. Okay. All right. So I've got a joint here, and I'm not filming you, okay? But how about we go ahead and talk through if you're okay, and then just know at some point I will post this on YouTube channel. Not many people see it, but it becomes part of the course. We'll just kind of talk through questions or concerns that you've got, okay? All right, and so it's good to meet you.
Good to meet you, finally.
All right, yeah.
Yeah, I had you last semester, last course.
Yeah, you did great.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It was tough at times. My work schedule was really tough.
It is.
And being able to get in front of that really hard.
If it was easy, everybody would do it. So you're right, it is tough.
But yeah, I'm enjoying it. It really has been
Great.
eye-opening.
Okay, well, what were some of the things that you need me to clear up for you?
Okay. When you go down to where we've been taking an article from Wall Street, okay, and we dissect that, and we find out who the protagonist is, and so forth. The formats that I've been using, I'm trying to make sure that I'm going in the right direction.
Okay.
Is what my main concern.
So first off, on formats, I'm kind of repeating your question just so in case folks here didn't hear it. For the articles, it's a little open-ended, okay? It's not APA requirements, but your final paper is. So the sooner you kind of get into that mode, probably the easiest, okay? And as you know, whenever you're writing a paper, you're going to have a series of paragraphs, okay? So you're going to have your intro, right? And then you're going to have your body, however many paragraphs that is, right? And then you're going to have a conclusion, okay? And the more that you kind of get in that framework, the better. Okay, not going to require an abstract in this course, stuff like that. APA style also tells you that use of paragraph headers is a good idea. And so one of the things I'm asking everybody to do is use paragraph headers, okay? So when you have your first paragraph, at the top of that paragraph, put introduction, second paragraph, whatever it is, last paragraph, conclusion, okay? Now, for your article, I ask you 4 basic questions, right? So the first one is, who is the protagonist, and is this a problem, a decision, or an evaluation? Okay, well, make that the title of that second paragraph, or first paragraph if you want, okay? Protagonist and type of analysis. As you were doing your readings, by the time you're done here with week 3 out of your text, you're learning that there are different ways of analyzing a case. You're going to approach the case as either a problem, a decision to be made, or an evaluation. And the text is giving you the basic framework for that. So by the time you're done with your readings this week, you will now understand why I'm asking you, is this a problem, a decision, or an evaluation? Because this text is giving you a process of how to analyze. And then your later chapters are, after that analysis, how to discuss and present the case, to include how to write it out, okay? So what the idea here is try to take the information that the text is giving you and apply that as you do your analysis. All right, so one of the things that chapter 1 or 2 of the book said is, to help you in that analysis, figure out who the main character is. Main character in any story is a protagonist. If I had $1 for every time somebody wrote they, or the company, or Jones Onslow needs to do this, I wouldn't have to be teaching anymore. Okay, I could retire and not worry about my daughter going to college. We try to personalize the leadership, okay? Jones Onslow doesn't lead anything. The CEO does, or somebody in charge there does. And that's why I'm after the protagonist. So find out who that is, and then either put yourself in his or her shoes, or approach it like you're an outside consultant. And they've come to you and said, hey, you've got a leadership degree. You know, what am I doing wrong? Or how should I approach this decision? Okay. Once you've got that under your belt, then we say, okay, leadership challenges. All right, well, the leadership challenges is the framework, and they speak about it in your text. The framework is, what type of course are you in? Okay, for case analysis, I did case analysis in finance class. I've done case analysis in cybersecurity classes. I've done case analysis in leadership classes. Okay, well, what type of class is this? It's a leadership class. Okay, so what are the leadership challenges? Not after whether or not, like in this class instructor article, that they should or should not have been making rockets for NASA, or whether that type of leadership style is good for chemists. But we don't know enough to really render that. And we certainly don't need to know all the ins and outs of the finances involved. That's not a leadership challenge. Leadership challenge is a little tough to see on my screen up here. But if you still have the DAF text, all all the chapters highlight an aspect of leadership. So in the DAF text, as an example, you had chapters 8 through 12. Chapter 8 was motivation. Empowerment. Chapter 9 was leadership communication. Chapter 10 was leading teams. Chapter 11 was diversity. You see what I'm getting at? So, like in this past article on Viacle, you had an aspect of leadership style, you had an aspect of communication, you had an aspect of change management or leadership. So those are leadership challenges. Okay, this guy is not using the right style. Great. Okay, you got it. Now, what was he doing? Okay, well, he was using this type of style and getting this kind of result. Okay, perfect. Now, what are you going to recommend to him? Okay, and so that's where you're not going to find the answer in the article. Okay, same thing with the case studies. And so that's why if you highlight in there, leadership styles, now what's the tough thing is getting back into what you learned and being able to pull some of that out. Okay, so if you remember on leadership styles, as an example, the old style of thought, the great man theory, was you found a leader, see what kind of styles he or she had, what kind of traits they had, George Washington, I cannot tell a lie, or Honest Abe or whatever. And then you emulated that person, and then they used whatever style they had for your own self in every situation. Well, it doesn't work. And we find out the hard way. And so chapter 3 of LDR text, and the whole basis of that entire text, and the reason why you're in leadership curriculum, is what Fiedler called the contingency theory. It depends on the situation. So if you've got do you serve any time in the Marine Corps or in the military?
No.
Okay, but you're familiar with it, or your own experiences. Think of a drill instructor who's got brand new recruits at a boot camp. What type of leadership style does he probably use? Probably more authoritarian. He's not telling all these young recruits, hey, what time do you want to get up in the morning? Are you really interested in training tomorrow? Or should we just kind of hang out and look at our smartphones? So he's using a very authoritarian type of model for effectiveness. Okay, we'll take that same drill instructor now, put him in charge of you out here, repairing lines or whatnot. Okay, probably isn't going to work very well. Okay, so the whole idea was, and the whole idea behind contingency theory, is you're taking that situation, that environment, the people, and you're kind of finding what is the right tool. That right tool, instead of being a flathead or a ratchet or whatever, is, do I use a more authoritarian style, or do I become a little bit more democratic? Do I use a needs-based motivation tool, or do I need to kick somebody in the rear? Do I focus more on tasks, or do I focus more on relationship building? These are all those concepts that you would have covered in LDR 300. And so that's what's kind of happening. So in the format aspect of it, I don't really grade down, okay? And so, and as an example, I don't grade based on words or pages, okay? I give you a framework and I tell you, hey, it should be about this many sentences and this many words. And that's to give you kind of an idea of how much time you should be kind of spending on it. Okay, if it takes you 50 words to answer the questions and make your points, good luck, good. I don't think you can, okay, because some of it needs to be a little bit drawn out depending on the point you're trying to make. On the other hand, if it takes you 50,000 pages, okay, good luck, because believe it or not, I read everything you write. I'll read it 3 times before I'm graded. In your particular case, you're doing very good work. We can, you're doing very good work. Now, I'm going to stretch you a little bit just on the leadership test. If you came into this class and you were operating at, say, in the high 80s in a B+ realm, I'm still going to pull you apart and show you a couple things. Now, because I don't like you, it's like, hey, I'm going to push that envelope. We're going to take it as far as you want to. My time is your time. If all you want to do is hit the wave tops, after a couple weeks, I'll tell you a few things. And then if you're the type that is just kind of cruising along and don't really want to get into it, or you've got other things you're more interested in, then I'll probably cycle back a little bit and start spending a little bit more time on some others. And that's not because I don't love you or that I hate you. It's just I operate under a premise that education is the one industry the customer doesn't want their money's worth. There's some people that are paying all this money to go to University of Mount Olive to get a piece of paper on the wall. And that's fine. I mean, I've been there. Call it cooperate to graduate. Hey, what do I have to do to get the grade to get through the class? We've all been there. But you're spending a lot of money. And this is stuff that is timeless. It will work in any organization, in any class of life. And if you're really interested in it and want to really get into it, then I'm right there with you, because quite frankly, I love it.
That's pretty much what I'm doing.
All right. So I think, let me pull up what we last did here, if you're okay with it.
Absolutely.
So we had the Thiokill article, right? And let's see here. Right here, right? Sorry about that. Okay. So let me pull up your okay, so yeah, you've done it. You went ahead and did paragraph headers. Okay, paragraph headers, you don't need a number. You can just do that. That's fine. Now, who is the protagonist? Charles Locke. You got it. Okay. Okay. Now, when I say, is this a problem in decision or evaluation? What we're getting at here is, tell me how you're approaching your analysis. Okay. Based on this, are you handling this as a problem, a decision, or an evaluation? Most articles, which is what we're using, are problems. That's just the nature of how they're written. The reason we're using articles instead of case studies is because on a case study, most of these are so old, we're already going to know what the answer is. Okay. As you went in through your readings, some of these case studies they give you in the text are 10, 15, 20 years old. Like they're talking about wiring harnesses on, an old type of vehicle. Okay, well, all I have to do is just Google up the answer and I'll have the answer. It doesn't really help. So what the idea behind this course is, let's use current event articles where we don't know the answer, and let's kind of figure it out. And it also becomes a little bit better and easier for the student, because instead of me forcing a case study on you that has to deal with the British example in Malaysia, who really cares about that, to, hey, you pull an article that you're interested in. So the last student article, or the one that you're pulling to analyze for tomorrow, have you already picked it?
I've
Already got it in. Great. Okay. What was the article on?
This one was on McDonald's.
Oh, CEO just got hammered because he was hammered.
The unexpected absence of their key resource, or their key people, the chief people.
Yeah.
He decided to leave the company within days of his leaving, of the other man's leaving. tried to go a different route this time. I actually tried to put a little bit more of my opinion into what I thought might
Very good.
be the issue, not so much exactly what I read. So I went that way a little bit.
I'm going to interrupt you just because I like what you just said. All right. So what happens in a lot of these is if the person really doesn't know the material, then what they're going to do is they're going to lean too heavy on the article, and they're going to just start regurgitating facts and figures out of the article. And most of that is just noise compared to what we're after. Certain assumptions have to be made. You're certainly welcome to go outside the article and find other elements of information. But you're spot on. I'm more interested in hearing what you have to say. With that, remember everything that you get graded on in a course is related to the objectives of that course. Okay, and in most cases, the reason that you're being tested is to make sure you understand the concepts that were covered in that class text or in the lecture or whatever. All right, so with that said, when you come in and unlock and you tell me that, okay, communications process, great. Okay, you're in there. You've identified communications leadership challenge. You've hit on it. Now, let's dive into that a little bit. Now, tell me a little bit more. Okay, as an example, your DAF text says in a crisis, okay, and I'm sure you recognize after the Challenger blew up, that company was probably facing a crisis. It tells you to develop 4 skill sets to be crisis ready. Okay, and this is just an example. I'm not saying this is the answer, but this is just an example. And so what they tell you in the DAF text was stay calm, be visible and supportive, tell the truth, and communicate a vision for the future. So, you said it is never too late to change your ways, even if it's brought to your attention. Okay, leaders should know how to face the public. Yes, a leader should. You and I are in violent agreement. Okay, now let's rip that thing apart a little bit, because you've had the benefit of LDR 300. You've gone through the course. You know that, for example, in communication, the most effective is face-to-face. You learn in communication that there are certain aspects of the media, how you communicate, that are better suited for bad news. Okay, how would you like to hear bad news? Me texting you? Me putting it out on Facebook? Or me talking to you face-to-face? Okay, because now we can read people, and it's, there's a variety of reasons. See, but you see what I'm getting at. And so part of this is this is good. I mean, you did a decent job on it, and I think there's no way I could say that this was not a good product. You answered the questions. You hit on it. Okay. Was this a 100? No. I mean, could this be better? Yeah, I think it could be. And so, and that's not to be mean. I'm just giving you Russ Jamison's opinion. Okay, well, pull my punk card. Okay, Jamison, you're so smart. Tell me how it could be better. Well, here's a couple things. When I go through this process with you, and I give you the case for analysis. The first thing I do up here is I put topics, right? What do those look like to you? Look like leadership challenges, don't they? So I've already kind of given you the answer. Now, do I expect to see, all 4 in your answer? Yeah, maybe. Or at least, a couple of them, right? And so crisis leadership includes communication. In other words, you and I may read an article, the same article, haven't had the benefit of the same education, and you're going to pull out different challenges than I am. But what I'm trying to get you here is to kind of explore it out a little bit. And I'm not saying do what I tell you, but how could it have been better if you pulled out, for example, decision making, okay, and there were some things that you got out of your DAF test. When we talk about leadership styles, here I'm talking about Fiedler's contingency theory, okay? Remember, universal approach was just you have a bunch of traits and behaviors, you find, okay, well that's old school. We've learned that you need to figure out who you got following you, what the situation requires, the task, the structure, the like, what you've got, and then trying to figure out what the best approach is, okay? Contingency block. And then there were certain things out of that communication chapter, and I just pulled a couple out just as an example. And I didn't expect you to memorize the text, but you don't have it anymore. That makes it hard. Okay. So if you're talking communication, go to that chapter, and you would have found, hey, if I'm centered on me, then here's kind of the questions that I'm going to ask. If I'm more interested in my sport, it's just that question. So, pull something out of there that you can work with and kind of apply. And then there's that crisis spreading piece that I just went through. The aspect of leadership, I want to tell all my students, and you may remember from the last one, is there's a fundamental relationship. It's your conclusion and then the evidence you use to support it. What you make your statement on, and this guy is not an effective leader. Great. Why? Because of 1, 2, and 3. I may say the guy is an effective leader because X, Y, Z. I'm not going to grade you wrong because we all look at things different ways. What I'm looking for is what you said and then what you're using to convince me. And if we had one student already in this course make a personal attack on a leader. Okay, this guy is, trash. Well, that's a personal attack. That's an ad hominem attack. That's not effective communication. That's an attack. Okay, so we're getting past that. We're trying to be effective in how we present our case. And that's just part of the undergraduate experience. Okay, and then, not in your text, but you may remember this slide from previous coursework or this one, okay? This is Russ Jamison telling you that your leadership class comes down, actually your whole coursework, I'm going to give you all 4 years or complete undergraduate experience in one slide, and there it is. Okay, so how much money you're paying, you could have gotten it just in one slide. Okay, organizational success, and I don't care what organization you're talking about. Jones Onslow, United States Marine Corps, University of Mount Olive, what's First Baptist Church these days? Catalyst or whatever, something it is. I mean, I used to be a member there, and we've gone on, but it doesn't matter the organization. It comes down to 7 keys to success. That's all it is. It's really that easy. 3 who's and 4 hows. Who do you hire? Who do you promote? Who do you make your senior leaders? How do you train? How do you equip? How do you organize? And how do you execute your mission? So let's take Jones Onslow. Okay, what's your primary duty?
I'm a line.
Okay. Did you have to have certain skill sets before you got the job? Yes. Okay, think about if we hired somebody who didn't have those skill sets. What if we hired somebody who couldn't stand or work with his hands?
Yeah, you can do it.
Okay, but what if we hired people who couldn't do work? We're in trouble already.
Yeah.
So if you get one of these wrong, you got a problem. If you're more than two wrong, your organization's going to self-destruct. If Joe Donzo isn't hiring the right people, and they're promoting the wrong people, and they're not training their people, I mean, how do you expect to succeed? So if all of this fails, if everything I've given you so far fails, go back to this slide and apply it to whatever article you got. And you'll probably start seeing the same thing. So in the case of biokill, we learned who we made a senior leader, how we were executing our mission. There were some problems, and it showed up. Yeah, to sit there and say, well, it wasn't my decision to launch the Challenger. Well, that's true, it wasn't. But that's kind of the point, isn't it? Who was stepping in to say, don't do this? And that's kind of where we get at. I'm going to stop this session, and